Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Instagram Live. As part of our Pharmacy 360 program, we're still focusing on nutrition. So this is now following up on the back of our first live with Miriam Hussey. That was all about emotional eating. So if you haven't seen that one, definitely take a look at it. I'm just going to get our guest here. We have dietitian, and she should be joining us any moment now. Sometimes it takes a few minutes. Oh, here we go. Hi,
Hi Liz,
Cathy.
how are you?
I'm great, thank you. It's cold one this
Yeah,
evening, but
absolutely cold and miserable.
yeah, just it's the time of year for it. But look,
Exactly. I was
here we
getting
are anyway.
worried last week. The weather was too good, so
I
I
know
think it's
exactly.
it's good to see
Um,
some normal weather.
exactly. So glad to have you here tonight, Cathy. Thank you so much for coming on board with our Pharmacy 360 program.
Thanks
So
for having
as you
me.
know, we're shining the light on nutrition, and in particular this evening we want to talk about supporting children's nutritional needs. I think it's a good point for you to introduce yourself because you're the pro here in this topic.
Well, I'm Cathy Monaghan, pediatric dietitian, CORU registered. So CORU is the Health Professionals Council, and dietitians are registered, regulated, and recognised by health insurers to support you and your family on all your nutritional needs. And we're specifically pediatric dietitians. So we're here to help all parents.
Oh, and I think for a lot of people listening tonight, a lot of parents that maybe are quite overwhelmed by the amount of information that is accessible on our phones these days, like
Yeah.
we can be very much bombarded and it can be really tough to know, someone says this is good, other person said this is bad, I don't know what to believe. I think that what we're trying to really raise awareness of tonight is the fact that you are registered, you have a governing body, who regulates you
Yeah.
guys, and to really let people know what you
Yeah.
do, what courses are out there, how worried parents can, get access to a dietitian.
Yeah.
So if you want to explain a bit about those links.
Yeah. So we're all dietitians originally from Children's Health Ireland, and on the website we have online courses as well as we do online consultations, one-to-one consultations. So we have a weaning masterclass, which is a 12-month membership to support parents all through starting solids, because I think, having a baby and then all of a sudden you find your feet and then all of a sudden it's starting solids, and that can be overwhelming for parents, and there's so much conflicting information out there. So with weaning masterclass, we have toddler masterclass that's supporting parents with problem feeders, fussy eaters, things like that, or helping prevent problems as well. We have cow's milk protein allergy, raising intuitive eaters, balancing breastfeeding and solids. What else have we? Getting food ready for school, and then our online consultation. So three of us do online consultations, and 30 to 70% is redeemable on health insurance.
That's brilliant.
So
I'd say
yeah,
so many people don't realize
yeah,
that.
exactly.
It might seem like, how do I, the current cost of living and everything, how do I invest in this?
Yeah,
But when you think about it, like I've spoken to people before who've even had one-on-one consultation,
yeah,
and it changed their lives, like from just giving them confidence and
yeah,
reassurance. I mean, parenting, they say, is one of the hardest jobs in the world.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so to have access to courses that you guys provide is just so brilliant.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
yeah.
So we get great feedback from parents, and you can also claim 20% back of the cost on PAYE. So it can work out pretty affordable. Yep.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and so well worth it. Money
Mm.
spent on your health and on your children's health. Like you'll never regret that at all.
Absolutely, and we can help prevent so many problems. Or if you're experiencing difficulties, if you come to us early, one of the reasons I set up weaning.ie was because I was a pediatric dietitian in Temple Street, and we were meeting parents where uh, everybody would have benefited if they'd have been helped 5 years previously.
Hmm.
And stress around family meals. If family meals are all about stress, we're missing the connection. And in our busy world, both parents working, we're all commuting, trying to balance everything in our lives. Our family meals are a precious time of connection. And if it's, I suppose, controlled by stress or bribing our kids to eat, and we miss the connection, it just has a knock-on effect on everybody, and it affects parents' relationships as well. One parent feels like you should approach things one way, one parent feels like you approach the other thing, a different way. And it's great that we can help with the evidence-based approach, and explain the reasoning. Once we can have a good chat with parents and explain why certain things work and how to approach different things and the rationale, the evidence, the science, it benefits everybody long term.
And that's what we need to get to in today's healthcare system, is preventative healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Like, I was at a conference in RCSI on Saturday, and it's all about lifestyle medicine, and 80% of chronic diseases are actually preventable.
Yeah.
And nutrition plays a huge role in that. And it's not just the food, it's the environment we're living in, so we're not blaming anybody. We're all culprits for this society we're in.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's like, where do we find the help we might need, and to support each other? And you guys are there for this, so we really want parents to know, even by joining this live tonight, like, pat yourself on the back, because you're obviously you're doing something with the intent of helping your family. So I think it's great. And we've had so many questions coming in today, so we're gonna have to, can't do them all, unfortunately. But what we do really want to get across is that, people can come to you after and look at the courses, book the one-on-ones, because every child is going to be different. I can only imagine some of the questions you get asked, and how, like, it's not just going to be a straightforward answer.
And I've 3 children myself, and the girls have kids as well, but I suppose I know it's nature or nurture. I have 3 children who have completely different personalities and everything, so we have to factor that into any advice we give families. So there's no judgment. We've had thousands of families.
And you mentioned you do a cow's milk protein allergy course. Do you want to tell us a bit about that, because I know there's so many people concerned about allergies and intolerances.
So lots of parents, when early on, and when the baby is young and they're not tolerating the milk, whether it's bottle feeding, breastfeeding, it can run into problems with tolerating the milk, whether back arching, pain, rash, any digestive issues, things like that. So any children, say, who might be mum might be excluding dairy from her diet, say babies on Nutramigen, Neocate, Aptamil Pepti, things like that, and parents who want to learn more about the cow's milk protein allergy, the milk ladder, things like that. So we have an online course for that, and then we also have one-to-one consultation. So if you're ready to start the milk ladder to help train the baby's gut to tolerate cow's milk protein, you don't have to give them cow's milk protein, but it's better for children long term if they don't have if it's non-IgE milk allergy, that we don't exclude foods that don't have to be excluded. If we exclude unnecessarily, it can create fear around food and things like that. So if we can help children to be able to enjoy all foods, so that they can go to birthday parties when they're older and things like that, it does have a social impact, and it's just we can help with all that.
And also for the mother, I would imagine the mother gets a lot of support in this as well, because if they're breastfeeding and trying to cut out dairy in their own diet, or restrict lots of different types of food, it is
especially
living.
If you're already exhausted, and then you have to completely overhaul your diet. It can take its toll on you. Absolutely.
And all I hear there is that the mom would be very stressed in that moment.
Absolutely.
That's going to knock on to everything from sleep of parent and child, and food choices, exercise choices. It literally spirals everything, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And having a baby is like a hand grenade into your life. That's the best description I've heard.
Oh God. I'm going to pick out some questions, and I know it's going to bring up different topics as we go, so we'll probably cover a wide range, but we'll start with kind of younger ages and then gradually go up for people. And if anyone has a question they want to pop in, they're welcome to pop it in, but can't guarantee we'll get to them all. We'll do our best. One question here is, what's the best approach when dealing with constipation in a 6-month-old?
So I suppose we'd need to know the kind of routine, how much food they're having, how many meals they're having, what their fluid intake is like. Constipation is the most common problem that parents see early in weaning. And I suppose if you think of your baby's digestive tract as, you know, it's just warming up to food, and it's like turning on the heating in a house. You know, you turn it on for the very first time really low and gentle. And when we're starting solids, we want to gently introduce the baby's digestive system to food and gradually increase. So, you know, sometimes I have 3 kids and say they would have been all started on solids in similar ways, but one was particularly prone to constipation. So it mightn't always be something that's that you're doing, or that they're eating too much or anything like that. But sometimes babies are on too much fiber. So as adults, you know, fiber is to help us feel fuller for longer, to you know, we fiber for you know, for good transit and things like that. But sometimes if you think of a baby's digestive system, if we fill it up with too much fiber too quickly, we can make the stools too big and hard to pass for their little digestive tract. So sometimes babies are on too much fiber, sometimes they're having too much food. Sometimes if we increase food too quickly and fluid drops too quickly, the balance is off kilter kind of. So we'd look at that. Generally, we'd always want parents to check in with their GP if their baby is experiencing constipation early on in weaning. But we can look at that and just have a look at the diet and see if there's any tweaks to be made.
Yeah,
But a healthy diet for an adult is not the same as a healthy diet for a growing baby. You know, we have big stomachs, we're finished growing, we're just, you know, eating to support our daily lives, whereas our babies have small stomachs, high requirements, and we have to fuel for growth, fuel for activity, fuel. So, you know, they have a smaller space to work with, but higher needs. So it's not just a smaller version of what we eat.
And with regards to weaning, you're saying you have 3 kids. Just out of curiosity, what kind of ages did you wean them? Was it the same age, or was it all variable?
No, it was
All
all
individual?
different for the 3 of them. So, you know, I always say to parents that not all babies are born at 40 weeks. Not all babies get teeth at the same time. They don't all sleep at the same time. They're not all kids are ready for school at the same time. They don't all walk at the same time. So not all babies are ready for solids at exactly the same time. Yeah, we say it in Ireland, we're saying it around 6 months. The WHO say exclusive breastfeeding till 6 months. And the WHO is taking into account the most vulnerable babies in the world. You know, the safest option for a vulnerable baby that doesn't have access to, parents don't have access to cooking facilities. You know, they're at risk if they're introduced to anything from a contaminated water supply. So the furthest safest point that a baby can go without introducing solids is 6 months. So that is why the WHO say exclusive breastfeeding till 6 months. And then outside that, say in the developed world, we say at around 6 months, when they're showing all the signs of readiness, when they've good head and neck control, when they've a steady base. It's not that they can sit up 100%, but that they're thinking about it. The hand-eye coordination is starting to come. So never before 17 weeks and at around 6 months. You know, if your baby is showing the signs of readiness at about 17 weeks, generally it'll settle down again and you'll get another few weeks. You know, life is easier when they're only on milk, and you're going to be cooking for them for about 20 years. So there's no
At
need
least.
to, yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's no need to rush in. You know, so it's around the 6 month mark, you know, and you have to factor in your own life as well. If you're going back to work at 6 months, you don't want to be starting solids the day before as well. So the earlier you start, the slower you go. The later you start, the more quickly you move. If you want to do baby-led weaning, you can't do that until baby is 6 months, because developmentally they're not ready. So, and it's not that you have to do baby-led. You know, I started with purees, and it's just that we don't want to stay on purees for too long, or longer than, depending on the age of when you start. But we want babies to get used to new textures in their mouth, you know, for them to kind of go, that's different than it was yesterday. It's not that we have to give choking hazards, or parents need to be anxious about giving lumps or anything like that. We just want, it's, you know, when you teach them to read, we gradually move on with books and with solids. When they're okay with one texture, we're bringing in just a new sensation in their mouth. And all of that is going to contribute to the developing jaw muscles, tongue muscles, controlling food from the front to the back of the mouth. And that's all going to contribute to speech. And we know that if we don't progress before around 10 months with textures, it, you know, that can maybe be a toddler that will have more difficulty with foods. So we can prevent so many problems by understanding what we're doing early in starting solids. And I
Brilliant.
have it all in my course,
And like the
Weaning
course,
Masterclass.
the fact it's 12 months, you were saying, like
Yeah,
that's amazing. Like it's, to be there through all the changes and the
yeah.
stages.
And they can
Yeah,
email me anytime, and we meet once a month online for any questions that parents have, them, everything like that. Yep.
brilliant. It's such good support. Well done.
Thank you.
Another question here is they have a 7-month-old baby completely refusing the bottle since weaning onto food. They don't know what to do and they're so stressed. How would you reply to that one?
We need to have a chat. I would
Yeah.
suggest a one-to-one consultation, but maybe they're getting too much food, and maybe they're getting teeth as well. So teeth play havoc with appetite, and you can imagine yourself if your mouth was erupting with teeth, and then people were coming at you with a spoon, and then they're coming at you with a bottle. You might be total bottle aversion. But we can't have baby getting dehydrated. You need to check in with your GP. Are they having wet nappies, dirty nappies? Are they sleepy? If in doubt, always get checked out. So I wouldn't leave it too long if they're completely refusing bottles.
Yeah, you do. You always reassure parents or carers, like always trust your gut when it
Yeah,
comes to their child, like because nobody knows them better
yeah.
than
If in doubt, get checked
yeah.
out.
Brilliant. I have a question here. When to introduce meat? Is there a time?
So at around 6 months, or after starting solids, we say start with vegetable first weaning, because we know if we start with the flavors we expect babies to like least, then we're waking up the taste buds in a new direction. And we know that babies who are started on more bitter vegetables, like the green kind of vegetables, if we start on those, they're more likely to be toddlers that accept those type of foods. Whereas if we start with pureed pear and things like that, if we start with the sweet foods, babies might eat more initially, but then they'll find it, they're not going to go from a sweet pear flavor to broccoli, things like that. So start with vegetable first weaning for about 10 days, and then we move towards a balanced diet, and we can start bringing in your meat, animal proteins, vegetable proteins, that kind of thing. So, babies have a small stomach, high requirements. Our iron levels start to go down after about 6 months. So we want iron-rich foods to be coming in at around that stage. And um, if we give baby, red meat 3 times a week, roughly the size of their palm, we're given a big tick in the iron box. They're going to store any iron in their liver. If they go off their food when they're getting teeth and all that, we know that we have stores already stored up. And then, they can enjoy all the green leafy vegetables and things like that. But it's good to get a good tick in the iron box early on.
And
But
with
you don't have
regard,
to either, if anyone wants to. We have veg
plant-based weaning,
plant-based
isn't it?
weaning. Yes,
Yeah.
that's yeah.
I
Sorry,
was literally just going to
yeah.
ask you that. Honestly,
That's one of
that
the
was my
courses that we
question.
have. Sorry, I forgot about
Yeah.
that one. Yeah.
No, that was my next question. It was about for like a vegetarian or
Yep.
like it doesn't have to be vegan, but the fact that you offer those courses as
Yeah.
well on the plant-based weaning is brilliant. Do you find there's a big increase in people going vegetarian?
Not
For lots of
really, to be
reasons.
honest. No, I think definitely we're all using more plant-based proteins in our diets, but I think it hasn't replaced for families. It hasn't replaced animal proteins, but definitely there's, I'd say, more of a balance rather than kind of one camp or the other.
Yeah,
So yeah.
brilliant.
So yeah.
For an 11-month-old, should she start her day with porridge or a bottle of milk?
So from a year, your baby doesn't need bottles, and dentists don't like bottles because from a year, because the milk is going to be sitting on the developing teeth. So if you want to keep a bottle in the evenings, whatever, from a year, but your baby doesn't need formula, doesn't need bottles officially from a year. So at 11 months, you're kind of weaning off the bottles. So I'd be starting with food.
Brilliant. So
And
she
you
can
don't
have her
need baby porridge or anything, Flavins is fine, or not to go brand specific, but whatever porridge you
regular
have,
porridge
or
oats.
regular porridge, yeah. Weetabix, Ready Break. Don't feed anything to your babies that you wouldn't eat yourself. Taste everything, and if you taste something and you go, "Oh my God, that's very sweet," then you don't need to give it to your baby.
I've one question here. Their baby just turned 1 and they're moving on to whole super milk.
Yeah.
Do they still need to give a vitamin D supplement?
So it depends how much super milk they're having. They don't need any more than 300 mils of milk in the day. 300 mils plus cheese and yogurts. So if your baby is having more than that, you're filling up their small stomachs with milk, and they'll have less room for food. So it might be harder to balance. We know that your baby's appetite drops from, say, about a year and a half onwards, because their their growth rate is levels off, and as their growth rate levels off, their appetite levels off. So it can feel like your toddlers are eating way less, but it might actually just that their appetite has leveled off, but they're still getting what they need. And that's where we need parents to learn more about raising intuitive eaters and responding to your child's hunger fullness cues, rather than thinking, how much they need to eat. That some days, and what I find is parents, we're all working, two parents working, or, a single parent working, whatever. We tend to see our kids, our babies, our toddlers, whatever, at their worst time of the day, their most tired, least hungry time of the day. But in our minds, we're only seeing them when they're not into their food, kind of, and it can bring an awful lot of stress to meals, to parents, to relationships, and things like that. So that's the toddler masterclass. It's all about toddler nutrition and learning how things change, and being a responsive feeder, rather than eat your broccoli and you'll get a biscuit. We don't want that.
Like it would nearly be like couples therapy by the end of the course.
Well, sometimes it can be, one parent prefers the direct authoritarian approach, and then another parent might have read up more on it and wants to do a different approach. But sometimes it's helpful to have a third person part of the equation and explaining why this is the reason we do certain things.
If a mediator role there.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The next one's about fussy eating. So this person says a 2.5-year-old who's becoming a fussy eater, is it a phase? Should they stay consistent with what they're doing? What would you recommend?
So I'd need to, learn more. What are they eating in the day? Nutritionally, have you any concerns? Are they growing okay? Is there anything else going on? So we need to know all that. Then we need parents to understand that growth rate changes, and as growth rate changes, appetite changes. Also, toddlers are creatures of habit. Toddlers have a favorite TV show, they have a favorite teddy bear, they have a favorite car seat, a favorite swing in the playground, all that kind of stuff. Toddlers like things that don't change. They are, they like crackers because every time you give a cracker, it looks the same. They like bread because it looks the same. They like things that come out of the same packet all the time. So if your toddler is into those type of foods, it's not unusual. It's not that those foods are a problem. They're part of the solution. They're the foods that make your toddler go, it's okay, there's a familiar food on the table. And if we get our toddler into that mindset, then we can, start to play games with the other foods. And eating is one of the most complex things we do as humans. And there are 32 steps to eating, to getting toddlers to eat. And once we can break it down for parents, we can give a step-by-step approach to how you might change things. But if, the walls of ears, as they say, if your toddler hears you saying, no matter what I do, they won't eat things. I've cooked everything, they don't eat this, or they don't eat broccoli, they don't eat, you'd never talk about your toddler or your child in any other way like that. You'd never say, oh, sure, they're terrible swimming, they never swim, things like that. So you have to be careful what they hear, because they believe what they hear. And if they hear that they're a terrible eater, they're going to be a terrible eater.
Yeah.
So, we don't want them to have to feel like they need to please you by eating. But if you can acknowledge the skills that they're using, like, well, you're so good with your beaker. Look at you with your cutlery. You're so good at feeding yourself. This, so you can acknowledge the skills, but you don't want them to feel like they need to please you by eating.
Okay. God, that's one to navigate.
Yeah.
And
it's hard then, because parents are, stressed, coming in from work, tired. You just want to get the dinner over so you can get the dishwasher full, so you can get everybody to bed and relax for the evening. So it's, there's more to feeding kids than actually just cooking the food.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
One more just on the kind of toddlers. Should I restrict my child's bad food intake, or will this not only make him want these foods more? We don't like to.
So we have to be,
good or bad.
We have to be really, really careful about good and bad foods and things like that. So, and what I would see, diets say that parents might choose, sometimes if parents say are fasting, and a toddler isn't eating, and I'll say, well, what are you eating at the same time? It's like, oh, well, I only eat between 10 and 4, and we don't get to eat together because I'm fasting, intermittent fasting, whatever. Um, you know, our children need to see us eating to learn how to eat. They learn to speak English by watching or by listening to us speak English. They learn to walk, so they have to learn to eat by how we eat and what we eat. So we are better off modeling a balanced approach to food, that we don't fear foods, that we can eat everything in balance, that all foods are on offer. If we restrict foods, and we say, you have to eat broccoli to get to whatever food, we're making the broccoli a chore to get to a desired food, then we're automatically putting the food that we're trying to limit on a pedestal. Whereas if we offer everything together, all foods are seen equally.
Okay.
So it's learning more about intuitive eating, raising intuitive eaters. The course is on the website if anyone wants to check it out. And it's, once you start to see it, like you can hear the language of your friends and things like that, that we just don't need to pass any of this on to our kids. So
Oh God. I think maybe just off the back of that one, it came to mind about the ritual of meal times and trying to maybe bring that back. That would probably, as you said, you're doing your eating with your children, and they can kind of pick up on what you do, and it also could be a nice, well, not always enjoyable, maybe if it's stressful. I don't want to speak for others, but
but I think, if we can bring back like family meals can be a huge parenting part of our parenting toolkit. Say my oldest is 13 now, and it amazes me how little time we actually spend together as they get older. So if we didn't sit and eat together, I don't know when I'd actually hear what's going on in their lives, because he's sport, PlayStation, school, friends, whatever. So if it's only about what goes into their belly, we're going to miss out on what's happening in their lives. Excuse me. So it is a big part of connection, and it's part of mental health, and not only from the composition of the meals, but the connection is part of our teens, mental health and things like that. And there's so much conflicting advice about health and nutrition and fear mongering. There's a rise in eating disorders. And I think our teens especially, they're worried about the environment, they're worried about school, they're worried about so many different things. They don't need to worry about what's on their plate. If they can feel safe, secure, relaxed at a meal, then gradually we can look at the composition of the meals. But the most important thing is that they're there, and then we have a starting point. And what I would say,
I was just going to say, screen time, like having screens in the same room as you're eating, is going to impact the meals as well, and the digestion and the connection to each other and to the food. We tend to eat, if we're watching television and eating, I heard we can eat up to double what we would if we were in a quiet room.
You're not being a mindful eater, but at the same time, then some children who are neurodivergent, sometimes there are children who do relax around a screen, and so there's never one advice for everybody. We have to see what is right for each family.
Sorry. That's so true. Are you okay there?
Sorry.
Just one more on teenagers. A question came in, said, how can I increase my teen's protein intake? She's not fond of a large amount of meat. She's not fond of a large amount of meat on her plate.
So I suppose we'd need to look at the diet as a whole. Maybe I wonder, are they a sporty child, and that's why you're concerned about the protein intake? But if your child isn't getting enough carbohydrate, they're going to be converting the protein that they do eat into carbohydrate for energy. So we have to make sure they're getting enough carbohydrate for everyday living. It's a minimum of 150 grams, and then we look at the protein intake. So if they're happy to have dairy, a big chunk of protein will come from dairy. We have our vegetable proteins. It doesn't have to be meat.
And just adding a tin of, even chickpeas or kidney beans or any sort of
lentils,
beans and
anything like that. But
lentils, they're great.
If they're having about 300 to 500 mils of milk in the day, whether it's cow's milk or plant-based, fortified plant-based milk, they will be getting a chunk of their protein from there as well.
Yeah.
And then we can look at other sources. But generally, protein is probably the least likely thing for kids to be deficient in.
Brilliant. It's just what everyone's talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. It's a bit of a general one, but any tips on how to increase more vegetables and fruit into a routine? So what would you recommend? I know it doesn't say the age here, but
yeah,
in
that's
general.
what I was going to say, age group. The model of behavior that you want to see is number one. The 32 steps to eating is that if our kids are familiar with foods, they're more likely to eat the foods. So if you're trying to increase variety in the foods that your child eats, vegetables, we need to make sure that they're familiar with the foods. So that could be, they help you in the supermarket putting vegetables into bags. They help you chop up the vegetables. You use vegetables in arts and crafts. You play Teddy Bear's Picnic with the different fruits and vegetables. So you work on the familiarity. Never work on trying to get the food into your child's belly. Work on the familiarity, that they're relaxed around the food and things like that. And that is how you get success.
Brilliant. Well, look, you're just a wealth of information. There's so much there. And I can only imagine that anyone has done your courses, the responses, I'm sure, are really, really positive.
Thank you.
So yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there, and just we'll link all the everything's there on your Instagram page. Even the reels you put up are super informative. I've directed so many customers to your page as well, and we'll continue to do that with the courses that you provide as well. So thank you so much for coming on. And just everybody give Cathy a follow there on weaning.ie, and look up the courses if you're interested.
Free weaning webinar on Wednesday at
I think that just froze. Yeah, when is the free weaning webinar?
On Wednesday at 12:30. So if you go to my page and comment wean under any post, you'll get the link to register for the webinar.
And that's just for anybody who's coming up to that sort of age. Is brilliant. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much. And I hope everybody enjoyed. And we'll link all the links at the bottom. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.